The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everybody, it's Drew here. I'm going to share my screen in just a second, and we will get started in a few minutes. I'm going to switch over and share my screen. So will somebody in the question box just tell me when you can actually see um, my computer screen rather than the screen that you're seeing now? Well, I don't see that I'm showing it to you yet, so okay. Can you guys see my screen? Okay, great. All right. I'm going to go full screen and then we will sit tight till. All right. For you, does that look full screen on my deck? All right. I am going to tread water for a couple minutes and let everybody get here. We're a couple minutes before the top of the hour. So just sit tight for a couple minutes and we will start in a few minutes. I am recording this and I will be sharing the recording with all of you once we end the show. So probably in the next day or so, we'll get it uploaded to a landing page where you can view it and you can share it with other people. So we'll have all that for you in a day or two after today. So I'm sitting here waiting to start, and I have a little dashboard that you guys can't see, and it tells me that only 55% of you are attentive right now. So I suspect the rest of you are checking email. I wonder how it tells that. Technology. I'm going to give this about another minute, and then I will jump in and get started. And by the way, after I told you that you were inattentive, it did not change your level of attentiveness. So someone's saying it's based on whether or not you have other windows open and if this is the active one. So hopefully I will be interesting enough in a minute or two that the attentive chart will go off the meter. But I will not take it personally if it does not. Huh. 3 people have already left. That's a sad commentary on my pre-show chatter. Maybe I shouldn't watch the dashboard. Maybe this isn't, my ego is not strong enough for this. All right, I'm going to wait for just about another minute, and then I promise I will get started. And I want to be respectful to your time. Then I know a lot of people are probably going to scramble in late because of client calls and stuff like that. I do have the little question box open. So as I'm talking throughout the webinar, feel free to ask questions. If they're tied to something specific I'm saying, I will stop and probably just answer them at the moment. And otherwise, I certainly will stay online and answer your questions at the end of the deck. So I promise I will leave no question unanswered one way or the other. All right, let's get started. So, if we have not formally met, I am Drew McClellan. I own Agency Management Institute. For those of you who are not familiar with AMI or with me, Agency Management Institute is an organization that is built on the premise that agency owners, in particular, are sort of accidental business owners, that many of you grew up in the agency business and one way or the other you found yourself all of a sudden owning an agency. I know 20 some years ago that's what happened to me. Is I just couldn't take it anymore. I left the agency that I was at and started an agency at that time with a coworker, and very quickly learned that although I was really good at agency work, I had no idea what I was doing in terms of running a business. And so I found this organization and had been a member for many years when I bought it about a decade ago. And now I spend half of my time, I still have my agency. I spend about half of my time hanging out with my agency's clients and my team, and the other half hanging out with agency folks, helping them run their business better. And one of the sweet spots for me, and one of the places where I believe agencies really have to level up and really have to have their A game, is in the account service department. And as I said in some of the emails and some of the promotional material leading up to this webinar, there is no one who stands in between an agency owner and a client's money more than an AE. And an AE, a good account service team, absolutely is vital to building an agency, both in terms of its profitability and its strength and its stability. And there are just a lot of ways that account folks, not intentionally, I don't think anybody does this intentionally, but that they cost the agency money. And so we spend a ton of time talking to CMOs about their relationships with their agencies. I spend a ton of time with agency owners and account execs in some of the boot camps. And so what I've done is I've gleaned some of sort of the best practices out of all of those conversations and put it in today's conversation and deck. So here's what we're going to cover today. So I want to cover the 3 things that clients want most from their account service people. So we're going to talk about that. And actually, I think I threw in an extra. We're going to talk about 3 places that your agency is leaking money and how to plug those holes. And then I want to talk about something that surprised me and continues to surprise me in how clients view their account folks, and how I think we can take, by the way, what surprised me was a negative view that they have. And I think there's an easy way to change that so that they don't have that negative perception. So that's where we're going to spend our time today. Okay, so here's the deal. When we we do research every year. We go out into the field and we talk to CMOs and business owners, anybody who is actively hiring and working with agencies. We've done this for many years. So we have talked to thousands of CMOs. And the one thing that is consistent when we talk to clients about what they want from their agency and specifically from their account execs, the number one thing that they want is they want you to make them look like a hero. Remember that unless somebody owns the business, whoever your point of contact is inside of your client's business, they are at constant risk and they feel incredible pressure around keeping their job. And as we know, that the average tenure of a CMO is not so hot. And so a lot of times, I don't think account people really think about and understand the vulnerable position that a client is in when they hire an agency. They are really hiring an agency with the hope and the prayer that this agency is going to make them look good, help them achieve their goals, and quite frankly, not screw up so that they get fired. So if an agency gets fired, that's one thing. But when we screw up and a client gets fired, that is somebody has lost their job. And while they will probably never verbalize that to you, they verbalize it to us all the time. That is their biggest fear, is they want you to make them look like a rock star. And if you do that and you are constantly thinking about how you can help them do their job better, that's the miracle cure. That is what you want. And one of the ways that I often encourage in our AE boot camps, and if you're an AE list, I know I've got a mixed audience here today. I know I have agency owners and I know I have plenty of account folks. If you're an account person and you don't know how your client contact gets evaluated, what are the things that they are going to be measured against in their review, what qualifies them for a bonus, what doesn't qualify them for a bonus, what would qualify them for a promotion, that is a conversation you need to have with your client. I had an AE tell me that when they had that conversation with their client, what that person's, Pat, we will give you guys a recording of this. I had an AE tell me that When they had this conversation with their client, what they learned is that if the client did not spend their entire budget, they got a bonus. So as soon as the agency learned that, they worked with the client to make sure they left a few $1,000s in the budget unspent every year to help, to help that client get their bonus. Now, imagine if you didn't know that. And, let's face it, our job is to spend all of their budget, right? So if you didn't know that, you would have been accidentally keeping your client from getting a bonus. You can't know this stuff if you don't have the conversation. And it's a really simple conversation to have. It's hey, I want to make sure that you get a promotion, a raise, a bonus, whatever you're eligible for. How are you evaluated on that? And let's make sure that we bake that into our marketing planning to make sure that you get that. So that's one of the ways that you can certainly make your client look like a rock star. So how do we make them look like a superstar? Number one is, and this is what they told us, they want us to be strategic. They want us to act like we are on their team and that we think like we work for the company. So for many account people, we're so busy trying to make sure we get everything done that a lot of times we feel more like taskmasters than we do strategic thinking partners. And this was one of the top things that they said they want. And you know what? This does not happen by accident, and this does not happen just in a casual conversation. This is about you working on making sure that you are taking them strategic ideas on a regular basis. And by the way, this is you doing this, whether you get paid to do it or not. So there are going to be several things that I'm going to talk about today that I think of as sort of value add things that we have to do to earn our clients' trust and confidence. And one of them is no matter what they ask for, of course, we're going to do what they ask for, but we have to deliver above and beyond. We are not looking to satisfy a client. We are looking to surprise and delight a client. And doing just what they ask us to do will satisfy them, but it is not going to surprise and delight them. So one of the things that I am a huge advocate of is I think that you need to calendar at least once a year, depending on the client side, up to 4 times a year that you pull together your team. And by the way, you should pull together people who have never worked on the account and mix them in with people who work on the account every day. And you guys should spend an hour. I highly recommend doing this over a lunch hour, bring some pizza or whatever your agency's food of choice is, and have 15 or 20 people in the room and just think out loud. Just think about what they could do. Think about their audience. Think about their challenges. Think about their competitors and look for some nuggets that you can take them. And then what you do is you say to the client, so let's say the client's name is Bob. Hey, Bob, this is Drew. Hey, I pulled together the team. I want to make it really clear up front that we're not charging you for this, but I pulled together the team and I also pulled in some folks who aren't on your account every day because I wanted some fresh thinking. We came up with some really interesting ideas. And by the way, do not edit these ideas. Some of them are going to be crazy. Some of them are going to be awful. And you say that to the client. You go, you know what? I'm not even going to edit out what I think you should see or what I think you shouldn't see. I just want to show you all of these ideas. Some of them are crazy and some of them I know you're going to think, there's no way we would do that. But they might trigger another idea. So I just want to walk you through them and see what you think. And again, Bob, I don't know if we're going to do any of these or not, but I just want you to know that we pulled together the team and we were thinking about you. So even if Bob does not bite on any of the ideas, what Bob will know is that you, on your own dime, spent an hour in thinking about his business and you brought people in that normally aren't on the account. You're not charging him for any of that time. And I will tell you this, odds are there's going to be 1 or 2 ideas in that list that Bob is going to bite on and Bob is going to love, or it's going to trigger another idea for Bob. But you win either way because you are demonstrating to Bob that you are being strategic. When we asked client contact folks, CMOs, business owners, folks like that, the number one reason why they fire an agency is because they feel like we're taking them for granted and we're just phoning it in, that we are bringing them the same ideas over and over. And I know what you want to say to them, which is, well, yeah, because every time we bring an idea that is out of the box, you shoot it down because you're so conservative, you're so scared, or you're so whatever. So you've trained us to bring you the same stuff every year. I know that, but the client doesn't understand that. So we have to bring them ideas, even if we know for a fact they're not going to buy it. They love the fact that we are thinking about them and we are bringing them fresh ideas. So make sure that you demonstrate that you are being strategic and acting like they're on your team. The other thing about this be strategic thing is your client often has no one safe inside the organization to think out loud with, that they are judged by their thinking and their ideas before they are completely formulated. The account people in your agency can be that thinking partner, can be that, let's just throw things up on the wall and see what sticks kind of partner. You have to position yourself that way as a strategic thinker so that they feel comfortable and safe talking out loud with you and sort of just creating ideas. And so Paul's got a question. What happens when they don't really want to hear strategic advice? For any of you that have children, you will recognize this reality. Even when you think they're not listening, even when they are dismissive of your ideas, they hear them and they hear that you're offering them. And so a lot of times, if you are a parent, you know that you've said something a million times and you're pretty sure your kid was not listening because they were either rolling their eyes or they were on their phone or whatever. And I know, at least for me, sometimes something will come out of my daughter's mouth and I'll think, oh my gosh, I said that 3 years ago. She actually was listening. And I'm telling you, clients are the same way. Even if they don't like your strategic advice, even if they don't want it, you peppering it in. And again, for some of you, you're going to have client relationships where they are very open to you just doing what I said, which is, hey, Bob, I want to come over and I want to walk you through these ideas. No commitment on your part. I just want to put them on your radar screen. Others, you have to be a little more stealth about it. You need to talk about best practices. You may need to send an article first, and then you may need to say, hey, you know what? I read that article and I was thinking, could we ever consider doing XYZ for you guys? Or would you ever think about doing this for your core customers? Whatever it may be, one of the best ways to be strategic for clients who are not visually or visibly open to you being strategic is to ask questions. And inside the questions, bake the strategy. The second way you can make them look like a superstar is, again, this order taker thing. So the fresh ideas need to be peppered into your regular conversations. But again, and I cannot emphasize this enough, if you don't calendar those brainstorming meetings, they will not happen because you know how busy you are and you know how you scramble every day to put out the fires of the day. That's what puts us in the position of being an order taker. We're so busy running around putting out fires that all we have left to do is, all we have time left to do is to take the order. So make sure you schedule those brainstorming sessions so you're not just an order taker. So Julia asks, how do you present those ideas when you know they won't spend money and have it show that you're still listening to their budget concerns? I think here's how you do that. The conversation is, you know what, Bob? I know that we've already allocated the budget for 2018, and I know there's probably not any more money. But I just want to plant these seeds because they were ideas we came up with that I think are viable. And you know what? Maybe it's something we'll do in 2019. But I don't want to not share ideas with you, Bob, simply because I don't think we have the money. I know that it's my job to be thinking about your business in fresh ways and to be bringing you new ideas. And budget, be damned. I want to make sure that I'm giving you these ideas and these new best practices and helping you think differently about the business. And if we don't have the money this year, that's okay. At least we're thinking about it and we're talking about it. So you can acknowledge that they don't have money. And first of all, you all know they do have more money, even if when they say that they don't. And number two, sometimes they'll take money that was allocated for one thing and move it to this new thing if they think it's a better idea. And number three, even if they do not buy a single thing, remember the number one reason they fire us is when we don't bring them ideas. So don't I want you to disassociate the idea of them being able to buy the idea with the importance of giving them ideas. Those are two completely different things. I know that you're on the hook, and I know there's a lot of pressure on you to grow the business, to increase their budget, and all of that. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But that has nothing to do with being a great strategic partner and thinker and bringing them fresh ideas. Sort of disassociate those two ideas. Yeah, Sheldon's asking if I can expand on delivering strategy through asking questions. Absolutely. So again, I'm going to relate this to parenting. A lot of times when you want your kid to do something, if you tell them to do it, they won't do it because they're kids and they're stubborn and you're their parent. But when you ask questions like, hey, have you ever thought about, or would you and your friends ever like to do, or whatever, and it's the same thing with clients. So, saying to a client, Bob, I know that the trade show that's coming up next month is super important to you guys, but I also know that we've never sent out a pre-conference mailer letting people know what was going to be at the booth. Have you ever thought about doing that, or have you ever tried that? So again, you're really suggesting they do the pre-conference mailer, but you don't have to position it as a, hey, Bob, we have an idea. Here's what we think we should do. I want to sell you something. You could just ask, hey, have you ever done that? Did it work? Have you ever considered it? Do we still have time to do it? So it's just a matter of positioning the way you talk about your ideas. The third thing is, and this was really insightful to me when we asked them what was really important in their account person. One of the highest qualities that they value in an AE is your ability to adapt without freaking out. And I think that's because inside the client's business or office or structure, everybody freaks out all the time. And so they often are the deliverer of change or news or whatever. And a lot of times clients are picking up the phone or shooting us an email and telling us that something has to change. And if we freak out every time something has to change, or we do the, oh my gosh, Bob, I don't know if we can get that done or whatever, that puts incredible pressure on them because there's someone waiting on the other end of their world saying, can the agency get that done? And so our ability to take a breath and to say, okay, you know what, Bob, I have to figure out how we're going to get that done, but yes, we will figure out how to get that done. And when change comes, whether it's change from you, because sometimes it's us, the agency, who is triggering the change, you know what, here's, based on your budget, we can't do what we talked about, or you know what, this vendor didn't get this thing done in time and we're gonna have to ship it right to the show, or whatever it may be. Or even, in the digital world, we're constantly adapting because we're testing and iterating. Whatever it is, they place huge value on your ability to stay calm. And if you have been in one of my AE boot camps, you know that one of the things I talk about is that in an agency, but particularly in an account person's world, at best, the best day is controlled chaos. We live basically in a hurricane all day, every day. There's cows and things and paper and buildings swirling around us. And a lot of our day is just spent trying to sort of control that chaos. And there is no one who has more influence on that chaos than the account person. You can either stir up the storm by you freaking out, or you can really be like the eye of the storm. You can calm the storm by helping people take a breath. We're going to figure this out. So how the attitude and the energy that you bring into all of this becomes really, really critical to how the rest of the team around you and your clients react to the constant change that is the reality, right? So I just thought it was really interesting that they articulated. So we did not pre-populate these questions and give them things like, hey, does it matter to you if they can adapt without freaking out or panicking? This is what they told us, and they told us so frequently that it was in the top 3 things that they value about their account service people. So just keep that in mind, and even if you're freaking out inside, part of being a good AE is not wearing that on your sleeve. Part of that is by exuding a calm and that you're in control, even when underneath, what do they say that, a duck looks calm above the water and his feet are paddling like crazy underneath the water. Even if your feet are paddling like crazy underneath the water, you just don't show that. And your ability to adapt and be flexible, and someone is saying this in the question, he says the ability to adapt and be flexible is one of our strengths. We win so much business and opportunity by being this way. And I'm telling you that is true because, again, what the client wants is he or she wants you to be their partner. And one of the things that they don't have in their workplace is calm. And so if you can be their sense of calm and, you know what, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, then that's a huge gift. I can remember a few years ago, I was talking to a client on the agency side of my business, and she said to me, you know what, Drew, she said, the thing that I love working with you guys the most, the thing that I value the most is that I know I can go to bed and sleep at night because you're worrying about my business. But you don't ever put that on me. You never make me worry, or when you say we've got it, don't worry about it, I know that you've got it. And I really honestly don't worry about it. That is a gift that we can give our clients. And the fourth one is, I told you I threw in an extra. They expect the account person to be digitally savvy. And what I mean by that is not just that, you're active on social media and things like that. They expect you to be able to teach them what is happening inside the digital space. And so from some agencies that have a digital department, I think the AEs have been a little left off the hook, and I'm not a fan of that. If you're an account person, you need to have certifications. You need to be HubSpot certified. You need to be able to talk about inbound. You need to have Google certifications. I'm not saying that I think you should be able, or that you're going to have to put together a PPC campaign, but you should know how it works and you should be able to talk your client through it. So if I were hiring an AE today, and I had two equally good candidates, but one of them had gone to the effort of going through a bunch of digital certifications and really educated themselves about how all of digital media buying, whether it's display, PPC, whatever it is, SEO, all of that, social, inbound, you as AEs need to be digitally savvy. And the reason why the clients need you to do that is because they don't have time to. And remember, I know you have a digital department. I know you have other people who do it, but you're the one who's talking to the client every day. And one of the things they want from you is they want you to keep helping them stay current and get smarter. But they want you to do it in a way that doesn't make them feel embarrassed or dumb. But you guys cannot be that source of education if you do not understand how all of that stuff works. So if you have no digital certifications, if you have no, if you can sort of talk about it in general terms, but you couldn't really get down to the nitty gritty, you are not serving your client as well as you should. And you are not as sticky in terms of a client valuing you as you could be. And so to the owners on the call, I am telling you, I would require, and I do on my agency side, I would require that your account folks do a sort of a digital university. And many agencies have put together a sort of a checklist of the kinds of certifications and classes that their AEs need to take. And they literally do this over a series of lunch and learns, or, they're asked people to do it on their own time. But however it gets done, it needs to be done. You really do need to have digital prowess that is higher than just sort of getting how it works. You need to really be able to talk it through. All right, so let's talk about the places that the agency is leaking money. So hang on, somebody asked a question here. Are there certifications you'd recommend for AEs? Yes, I have a list actually of them. And I'll tell you what, I will include a link to the list on the landing page with the recording of this webinar. And if you go there next week and it's not there, please remind me that I just said that I would do that, because I will try and remember, but I'm old. So, but yes, I do have a list of certifications and I'm happy to share that. All right. So where are you leaking money? So as you know, every agency is You only exist if you're profitable. And so there's nothing wrong with us talking about making sure that you make the most money that you possibly can. And there is no one in the agency who has a greater role with existing clients in deciding whether or not the business is profitable. And if you have not, agency owners, if you have not made a list of your clients by profitability, you should do that, because I guarantee you there are some clients towards the bottom of the list that you are literally paying for the privilege. By the time you pay your staff and all of that, you are paying for the privilege of serving that client. And so you've got to be tracking profitability by client, and you need to know what clients you're actually making money for and which ones that you are not. All right. So hang on. I see. Whoops. You know what, Pat? I accidentally, instead of reading your question, deleted your question. So ask me again. Megan is saying there's a solid AMA digital marketer course track on LinkedIn Learning. Okay, that's great. I will add that to the list. Thanks, Megan. Pat is asking how much business should an AE manage, or how many clients? So it's not really clients. It's really based on AGI. I do not believe that an AE, and I'm going to say a good mid-level AE, should be able to manage about $500,000 worth of AGI. It is harder when that AGI is broken up into tiny little bits by 1 million clients, so it's easier when it's fewer clients. But a good AE should be able to manage about $500,000 of AGI. Okay. All right. So where are we leaking? So here's what's draining the agency's bottom line. The number one is many AEs. What is AGI? Someone asked. So AGI. So when you think about an agency's billing, so let's say you bill a client $250,000, and $100,000 of that is production costs for some TV spots and media and other things that go out the door. So you're basically just the bank for that. So you bill a client 250, 100,000 of that is outside expenses. Then $150,000 is AGI, or adjusted gross income. And that's the money that the agency actually gets to keep. Okay. All right. So what's draining the agency's bottom line? AEs don't understand what a write-off actually costs. So many AEs believe that when they write off $5,000, then the agency just has to earn another $5,000. But that is not the case. So in the AE Bootcamp and the online courses that we teach, I give an example where basically if you write off $5,000 for the average agency based on how much of their gross billings is passed through or cost of goods, then it takes about $90,000, a $90,000 project to replace that $5,000. And what AEs do not, when I show them that example in the boot camp, the expression on their face is priceless, because all of a sudden they understand that the write-off, literally, they have to sell another $100,000 worth of work to make up that $5,000. So if you have not walked your AEs, if you're an agency owner and you have not walked your AEs through basic agency math, which is, gross billings minus cost of goods equals AGI, and what goes into AGI and how that AGI gets spent and what little bit of it is profit, and that's what you've just written off and you have to replace, you need to make sure your account executives understand what I call agency math. Super important that they understand that. All right. I see your questions, guys. I'll get to them in a second. Here's the other thing is scope creep. We all have scope creep problems inside our agency. And the reason why it's such an issue, A, because then you have to write off the time. So back to number one. But two, there's no accountability for it. So if you are not tracking hours and how much time is being spent on a job and what out-of-pocket expenses you're putting against a job, pretty soon a client starts jerry-rigging with that job. Hey, we need another page on the website, or, oh, you know what, we want another panel on the brochure, or whatever it is. And if the account people have not been trained how to say to a client, you know what, Bob, super happy to do that for you, but that is outside of the scope of our agreement, and so I need to do a change order. If you don't have that language, if you don't have that in your contracts, if you're not able to go back to a client and say, we absolutely can do whatever you want, but there's a cost to that. It's not what we agreed to for the dollar amounts that we agreed to. And your account people aren't trained on how to be comfortable having that conversation. Then basically you are giving away, you are literally handing your clients hundreds of dollars of bills every day because you are doing work for free. And that gets back to why they're not profitable. Okay, Pat's saying, does it matter the experience of the AE? Yeah, so if they're a junior AE, they're not going to be able to manage a $500,000. They probably could do, if somebody only has a couple years of experience and they are literally running an account all by themselves, they probably can only maybe manage $300,000. If they're, if they have 5 years of experience or more, they are probably capped out at about 500,000. And if they're super experienced, like they have 10 years, then 10 or years or months, maybe they can get to 6 or 650. But a lot of that depends on if there's media running through that account or other things. So that's a very general ballpark, but there's lots of specifics that are going to alter that. And yes, $100,000 per year of AGI is what I meant. Okay. Third thing is bad estimates. We stink at doing estimates. We are horrible at estimating projects. And so here's what I'm going to tell you. You can try and figure out why you do bad estimates. You can sort of figure out who always. So first of all, here's how we do estimates. We go around the shop and we say, hey, how long is it going to take you to do this? And how long is it going to take you to do that? And everyone gives you the best case scenario answer. Oh, well, and basically what they're saying without saying it is, well, if I'm not interrupted and I have a lot of time to think about it and, I got a good night's sleep and no one's standing in my doorway and I'm not getting texts from my husband telling me this or that, yeah, it'll take me 2 hours. Well, you know what? We never have that day, you guys. We never have that day. But every estimate is built based assuming that it's the perfect day. And that day doesn't exist. So that's why we're bad at it. So you can try and sort out all of that, or you can do what I call the Drew hack. And here's my hack is do your estimate and then multiply it by either somewhere between 1.3 to 1.5. And if you do that, and that's the estimate you present to the client, that's actually a much more accurate estimate than the estimate you put together. So again, do your estimate and then multiply it based on your experience, based on the client, based on the team, anywhere between 1.3, so you're adding 33%, or to 1.5, you're adding 50%. And that is actually what an estimate is. That's actually going to be an accurate estimate. Sorry, David, can I repeat what? So our estimates are really critical it sets the tone for whether or not there is scope creep and whether or not we have to write something off. But really what does all of that, quite honestly, is our scope documents, and I'm going to get to the next one, time tracking. So if you as an agency, if everyone does not do their time every single day, the minute someone goes more than 24 hours without filling out a time, whatever your time tracking thing, a timesheet, or you do it online or whatever it is, that the accuracy of that is like 63% less accurate. So you have got to implement, and no one likes to track their time. And by the way, owners, you need to track your time too. No one likes to do this, but if you don't do it, I promise you, you are operating your agency in the dark. I don't care if you bill by the hour or not. I don't care what the other consultants tell you about not tracking time. Your people's time is the only resource that you have. And you base everything you tell a client on time. Even if you never say to them, it's going to take 4 hours or 12 hours or 300 hours, we build our estimates based on time. We build our scope documents based on time. And if you are not tracking that time and reporting that time, there is no way for you to check to see if the stuff is accurate or not. So you have got to implement daily time tracking. And you absolutely need to require every single human being in the agency, billable or not, to track their time every day. It is a management tool. It's not about how you bill your clients. It is a management tool so that you know that you are using your resources wisely and that the scope documents and the estimates have any chance of being accurate. Hang on. Do I have resources for solid AE descriptions so you're setting accurate expectations? Yeah, but again, it's good. That's going to be very specific to your shop and the kind of work they do and the way you're structured. So I have some general ones, but probably you would have to still tweak them. Yeah, I'm sure we do have a blog post about agency math. I will look for it and I will try and include it in the link on the landing page. Apparently, David, I answered his question. How do I feel about billing to the estimate if you actually come in under a job? Here's the deal, guys. If you are smart enough and you do a great job estimating, so if you tell a client it's going to be $20,000 and when you track all the time and everybody puts all their time in, it's $18,000, you still bill the client for $20,000. That's what you agreed to charge them for the project. And you are not really charging them by the hour. You're just using hours to try and set an idea of the value of what you're giving them. But there are a million times that you will tell them it's $20,000 and it's really $22,000 and you have to eat the $2,000. So do not be stupid and charge them $18,000 on the rare occasion you come in under budget. The agency's job is to make a profit. And all too often we don't make a profit. So on the rare occasion you actually do, don't give that away. You need that to offset all the times that you over-service the clients. I have never, ever, ever, in all the agencies I work with, in all of the agencies I'm on site with, in all of the financials, remember, I see the financials of all of the agencies that we work with at AMI. I have never seen an agency that doesn't over-service their clients. So on the rare occasion you don't over-service them, do not give that away, okay? How do agencies that are good at estimating compete with all the agencies that are bad, especially when winning new business? So I'm assuming the question there, Nick, is what if when we are competing for new business, if our estimates are a lot higher, right, then will we lose the business? And what I would do is I would in that RFP or in that document, I would use ranges because there's no way you have enough information to accurately do estimates at the new business stage. There's just too much you don't know. So I wouldn't give them a dollar amount that is just $20,000. I would say, look, these projects range anywhere from $15,000 to $25,000 based on these kind of variables. And then I would bullet point some variables so that they understand that you can't possibly give them a accurate dollar amount at that stage. All right. Oops. How do I feel about listing ranges on a proposal? If it's a new business proposal, I'm fine with it. If it is with a client, if you do that, so if you with a client, if you say it's going to be $15,000 to $20,000, the only number the client remembers is the 15. So if you've done my estimate trick and the 15 is the 1.5 times your estimate, I'm okay with it. But in most cases, that is not what you're doing. You're afraid you're going to lose the work, so you try and put a low number on the bottom. But then when you try to charge the client the higher number, they have a cow. So I'm not a fan unless you've used my 1.5 measurement. So Nick says, yeah, we're expensive because we accurately estimate. So in a new business situation, Nick, what I would do is I would give them a range. And again, that bullet pointed list of the things that create that variance inside the range. So I wouldn't lock myself in. Okay. Any advantage or disadvantage to billing by the hour? Yeah, absolutely. If you have a client who really is willing to pay you for every hour you work and never question it or go 4 hours for copywriting, my grandma could have written that in too, which we've all heard some variation of that conversation. If you have a client who is genuinely willing to just pay whatever it takes, then there's nothing wrong with it. But honestly, that client is like finding a needle in a haystack. Most clients say they want to be billed by the hour, but what they mean by that is they want to pay by the hour so that if you ever come under, they have the advantage of that, but they don't want to pay when you come over. So as a general rule, billing by the hour is not to an agency's advantage at all. It is to the client's advantage and to the agency's fiscal disadvantage. But if you have a client who basically says, I don't care what it costs, just bill me for your time, and I am a happy camper to pay that, and they stick around after you've done that for a while, nothing wrong with it. But that's not typically how that works. How do you stop over servicing clients? Well, you know what, Wendy, that of course is that's the golden ticket question. And part of it is when you estimate accurately and when you do daily time tracking, you are able to watch when you are getting close to the estimate, and you're able to talk to your team about making sure that they don't spend more hours on the project than they've been allotted. And if the client then asks for things that are out, if you have a great scope document, a lot of times I see scope documents and oh my gosh, they're awful, you guys. They're so vague that the client can completely interpret them how they want. You've got to be very specific in your scope documents about the deliverables and about the timeline. Otherwise, scope creep is inevitable. And so you need to make sure that you are really doing that well. And so Wendy, when you are tracking time daily and use the account person, if that's who you are, or if you're the owner, if your account people are tracking that and they have software that shows them, we're already at 80% of the budget for this project and we haven't even shown them concepts yet. Now you can bring the team together and say, we got to wrap this up, you guys. We have to tighten this up. But if you're not tracking that accurately, honestly, it's impossible to stop over servicing the clients because you have no idea, you don't know that you've done it until you close the job and bill it. So the question is, do I recommend using a range or no? No, with in new business proposals, yes. With existing clients, no. I think you should have a good enough idea that of what the project is or what the scope of the project is that you can give them a dollar amount. And obviously, hopefully you've built yourself some wiggle room and profit in that number. And you can just say, look, this is going to cost $25,000. And as long as we stay in the scope, and here's a very detailed, very focused scope document, it's going to be $25,000. And then it's your job as an agency to manage that work so that you come in under, or if you have to, at the $25,000. That's our job. All right. So I want to be mindful of a time here, guys, and leave plenty of time for questions. So here's the thing that surprised me. So remember what I said to you on the beginning was clients want the account people to be strategic, to bring them big ideas, to not be an order taker, to be thinking about their business. But the number one thing that they hate about agencies and their account people is they hate the fact that we come off as being very aggressive and money hungry. And we are always, but the phrase they use is that we always have our hand in their pocket. So you think, okay, well, wait a second. Every time I bring you an idea, obviously, if we implement it, it's going to feel like I'm asking you for money. So how do I not do the thing that you hate the most, but do the thing you're asking me the most to do? Well, there are a couple ideas here. So number one, first one is bring them some ideas that you as the agency can't execute. So in your brainstorming, think about their business in a much broader perspective than just what the agency does. When you're actually, because remember, they want you to be on their team, right? And so when you bring them ideas that maybe are something they can do internally or their salespeople can do, or maybe it's an HR idea that they can execute because they're having a hard time recruiting employees, whatever it is, when you demonstrate that you're thinking about their business holistically and not just from how can I make money from this client, that builds huge trust for them that you are not always sticking your hand in their pocket and that you really are thinking about their best interest. You are their strategic partner. You are behaving like you're on their team. So this is a great way for you to earn that confidence from them that everything you talk to them about isn't just so the agency can make more money. Another way to do that is give to get. So you invest first. One of the things I am a huge advocate of is that the account people spend more time. And by the way, get away from your freaking computer and spend face-to-face time with your client. There is no substitute for actually being in the same physical place with your client. And so for some of you, that means getting on a plane. I get it. you have to invest, and sometimes you can't charge them for all of that. So are you going to do it more for your biggest, more profitable clients? Absolutely, which is, by the way, why I said you need to be gauging your clients by profitability so you know where to invest that extra time. But spend time on the plant, spend time out in the field with their salespeople, spend time with them at trade shows, and on occasion, do that on your own dime. So give to get, demonstrate that you are investing in the relationship so that they feel like you're not always trying to, for everything you do, nickel and dime them. They hate that. So bring them ideas the agency can't execute. Give to get, you invest first. Find more ways to spend face time with them. Learn more about their business by being on site, whatever that means for that client. And stop selling. And I love this technique. Make them ask. So to say to them, hey, Bob, you know what? We have never, I don't think you guys have ever done a pre-show mailing. Have you ever thought about that? Or have you ever tried that? And do you think that that would get more traffic to the booth? And then shut up. Don't go. And we could do it for you and we could have it done by Thursday or whatever. Just let Bob react to that and have him say, you know what? Actually, that's probably a pretty good idea. You know, I bet we could do that because especially when we're having so-and-so in the booth, everyone's going to want to meet so-and-so. We should let people know we're doing that and say, you know what? That's a really good idea. You're right. That would be a good key to put in the mailing. And then shush. And pretty soon Bob will say, well, can you get started on that? We should get going on that. All that, it's amazing how that little nuance feels differently to our clients. All right. All right, hang on. I'm mindful of time. So a couple things, a couple ways to level up, and then I will spend the rest of the time answering your questions. If you are interested in talking about this more and hanging out with me for a couple days, you have a couple ways of doing it. Number one, we've got an AE boot camp September 24th and 25th in Chicago. And on the landing page, I will include a link where you can go and learn more about that and register if you are so inclined. And as some of you know, we also have an on-demand, so a video course that you can take, and we're going to put together a discount for you. I think it's like 30% off that I will also include on the landing page. So if this is of interest to you as an owner or as an AE, there are some other ways that you can hang out with me either live at the boot camp or hours and hours of me talking in the online course. So I don't want to spend more time on that. I want to get to your questions. So, all right. So any experience with points-based systems for client work? Yeah, so there are several agencies that in essence have created their own currency. So instead of talking about dollars, they basically point-based things, but quite honestly, it's still based on the employee's time. So a blog post might be worth 4 points, but somewhere along the way, and each point is worth like $150, well, guess what? That all still equates back to the employee's time. Some agencies, if you are what I call a Wonder Bread factory agency, if you do the same kind of work and you do it really well and very consistently over and over and over for your clients, a points-based system may be a great solution for you. If you are more of an artisan bakery kind of agency, which means you custom do everything for every client, then the points-based system is probably not a great fit for you. Do you build the scope time into the project cost? Sure, absolutely, anything. You also, by the way, should build accounting's time into the project cost. The more you, and your project management time and your account service time, that absolutely. But again, it shouldn't take you all that long to create scope documents. Hopefully you have scope documents that you can use as a reference and you can build off of. But absolutely, anything you do for a client should be baked into the project cost. And then again, you still need to use my 1.3 to 1.5 multiplier so that you're actually accurate. Thank you, Joshua. You can have more and more hours of me talking. My daughter would find that amazing that you want that, but you can in many ways. So by the way, you guys, we also do a lot of stuff for free. If you have not found out about our podcast, Build a Better Agency, we have a new episode every week. All you have to do is subscribe to that. There's lots of content on the blog. So there are lots of ways to get more and more of AMI and my voice. All right, our agency project management, time tracking, estimating, invoicing software recommendations for small shops. Yeah, there are several good ones. The most commonly used one in our space right now is Workamajig. For some of you that are smaller, that's too much. It's too complicated. If you are on QuickBooks right now, Function Point is a great complement to QuickBooks. It actually plugs into your QuickBooks and creates an integrated system. Lots of agencies are enjoying enjoying as much as you're going to enjoy project management software, using a project management software and accounting tool called eSilent Partner. So those are probably the three that right now pop to the top of my head. What if your client resists using the agency project management techniques? I need more information about that, Michael. So I am not a fan of making your client log into software. I think you have to do that. I think you need to manage that for them. But if that's not what you're asking, Michael, ask again. If 4 people in different roles and seniority touch an account, do you just divide the AGI by 4? Oh, you mean for figuring out how much AGI per person? It gets more complicated when you have layers of account people on an account. So what you would probably end up doing is adding up all of the AGI that all of those people touch and then dividing it by the 4. So it wouldn't just be that account, but you would look at all the accounts that they all touch and then divide it. It is a imprecise science for sure, but it's better than nothing. So, but yeah, you could kind of jerry rig the numbers that way. You're never going to get it precise. You just need a ballpark. We bill, we bill to fixed scope, but we track hours. Perfect. We are constantly trying to manage expectations of how busy a person should be billable, how much to leave for planned work, unplanned work, non-billable internal times or meetings. So it depends on the role, but as an account person, if you are not supervising other account people, you should be billable at about 80%, 75 to 80% of your time should be billable to a client. And by the way, being billable does not mean it actually gets billed to the client. So if you write off a bunch of time or there's scope creep or things like that, so that's one of the reasons why those numbers have to be so high is no agency gets to bill all of the billable time that they incur. So you've got to have a margin. So you really need to be, we need to be able to bill at least 60 to 65% of your time, which means you have to be billable at 75 to 80% for us to get to that number. Okay. What do you think about diagnostics as a first step with a new client as a way to have a proposal scoped out on the prospect's time? I'm all for that. I think that we undersell our thinking and we oversell the stuff that we make. So I absolutely think that you should have diagnostics or discovery or whatever word your agency uses. And I think there should be a fee to that. And the reason why I think there should be a fee, especially with a new client, is because that will show you if they value your strategic thinking and if they value the insights that you bring, or they just want someone to make stuff for them. And you know what? Agencies are never going to be the cheapest at making stuff. So then you end up competing on price. And you guys, we can't win on that. We only win on competing on price when we are providing value that is more than the stuff, when we are providing insights and ideas and the things that we talked about earlier. All right. Getting the value of FaceTime with AEs and clients. What about creatives? I think I think it's dangerous for the client only to know the one AE that they talk to every day. I think it's important that you expose your client to other people on your team, but it is vital for you, the account person, and depending on at what level the client contact is, you, the agency owner, to have FaceTime with these people. You cannot just do everything remotely and through email and electronically. You really do have to find ways to have FaceTime with them. And owners, by the way, you need to be spending FaceTime at a higher level with the business owner or the president of that business. If it's publicly owned, you have to make the investment to do that. Your AEs can't do that. So this is not all on the AEs. This is on the entire agency. But FaceTime is one of those things that we all intellectually know we should do more of, but we make a lot of excuses about why we don't do it, and it is costing us clients. Can you go back to Workamajig? Yeah, what I said about Workamajig was it is the most commonly used tool right now in terms of accounting and project management software. But if you're an agency of I'm going to say 15 people or less, it's probably too much for you. You probably don't need something quite that complicated. And eSilent Partner or Function Point might be a better shot. They're all good tools, and it's certainly a garbage in, garbage out situation for all of them. If you don't use them well, then none of them are good tools. They're all good tools. But you need to find the one that's the right fit for the size and kind of work that your agency does. What if your client resists using the project management software? Okay, Michael, don't forget to tell me what that meant. How transparent are you with your estimates? Do you go line by? Oh, no, 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 no. If you go line by line with your estimates, your client's going to go, it's going to take you $600 to do that. I don't understand. How many hours? They immediately go to hours. You do not want to have that conversation. You give them a scope document that outlines all of the deliverables, and you give them one price. You do not go line by line. Yeah, it's look, this brochure is going to be $20,000, and here's what it is. It's 8 pages, and you're going to get a photo shoot and a this and a that, and you list everything that they're going to get, but you give them one price. Do not go line by line. That is a disaster waiting to happen. What was the first one? What, Nancy? How do you respond to client concerns about also working with a competitor in a niche space? Yeah, that's if your agency specializes in a niche category, then your client hired you knowing that you're going to work with others. Some agencies will build firewalls where they'll have different account teams working on, let's say you're in banking, that they'll have a separate account team with firewalls between the accounts. One of the things you could certainly talk about is you obviously have a confidentiality agreement, which you can assure them about. And ideally, what they really want is that the same account person is probably not working on, like, for example, 2 bank accounts. It's more that than it is like the whole agency as a whole. Would you share examples of good versus bad scope documents? I don't really have those. Again, because that's not something I'm like when I'm going into an agency, I'm looking at their documents, but I'm not asking them for copies to share with other people. So what I will just tell you is you don't put enough detail in, you're not specific enough. And what I would do is I would write my scope document, I would show it to someone else and say, ask me questions about what you don't understand, what's vague in this, and make sure that you are as specific and detailed as you can be. I mentioned 3 project management systems. Okay, I mentioned Workamajig, Function Point, and eSilent Partner. What digital training do I use? I will include that list tied to the landing page for the recording. So I've got a list of recommendations, which I'm happy to share with you. The agency culture is project management driven. The client is a nonprofit organization and doesn't use project management processes. Okay, so as the AE, you're going to have to translate that for the client. So you're going to have to help the client understand, okay, here's what's coming next. Here's what we need next from you. Don't use project management terms, and don't, for a lot of you, let's say you're doing agile or you're doing something like that. Clients don't understand that stuff. So you have to use it language that they understand. So it's not that they are adverse to having the project well managed, but they are averse to that sort of language and process. So you've got to make it simple enough for them to understand, and you need to use language that is in their terms. And so one of the ways to do that is to help them understand, hey, we've got to have everybody's approval by Friday, because if we don't, then this is going to end up going over budget, because we can't keep waiting for, everyone's approval to come in, trickling in. We have to get everyone's approval or changes on the same day. So if you couch it in what's to their advantage, they will start to understand. Okay, guys, I only have about another 5 minutes. So techniques for improving client engagement and reporting and measurement. We offer to present the quarterly reports and they don't bite, or they don't open it. Yeah, that's a problem. So what I would ask them is, what questions do you get asked by your CMO? Can we prepare a report for you, for your CEO, once a month or once a quarter, so that you have all their questions are answered? So it may be that I find most agency reporting is too robust and too detailed, and your clients don't want that level of detail. So they're overwhelmed, and what they don't want to admit to you is they don't understand it. All right, last question. What are your thoughts on clients asking for hourly breakdown of work? I would say no. Um, and I would just say, you know what? We don't work by the hour. We don't bill by the hour. We bill by the project. And so we don't share that because it's irrelevant. We've told you what it's going to cost, and that's what it's going to cost. And either you're happy with that or you're not. One of the things that I talk about in the AE Bootcamp and in the online course, which I don't have time to get into today, is one of the big mistakes we make is we only offer them one choice in a proposal. You need to be giving them three choices. So think of it as a baby bear, a mama bear, and a papa bear, and you want to build what they really want as the mama bear and try and sell into that middle example. All right, guys, I'll tell you what, if you have more questions for me, you all have my email address. Feel free to shoot me a question and I'm happy to answer it. But I need to wrap this up. Thank you very much. Thanks for hanging with me. Thanks for being attentive. Thanks for all your questions. Like I said, in a couple days, we'll have the landing page with the recording of this for you. And what I'll do is I will schedule another webinar, and I won't prepare a deck. We'll just talk for an hour, and I will invite all of you to that. It'll just be an open Q&A, and I'm happy to do that. So watch for that. If you are not getting our weekly emails, make sure that you go to the website and sign up for that, because that's how I'll talk to you about it. If you follow me on social, I'll talk about it there as well. Okay, thanks very much. I will watch for your emails. Appreciate it very much. Talk to you guys soon.